It is with a shaking hand that I, Adrian Barnsworth, set down the details of those accursed weeks in my Bloomsbury apartment. I write this not for the skeptical ears of the modern world, but as a warning should anyone stumble upon the Kitab al-Azif or any of its bastardized kin. I am or was a man of letters and a modest collector of forbidden antiquities, but I am now a prisoner of my own nightmares. My friend Philip Somner, a man whose intellect once rivaled the brightest minds at the Miskatonic, came to me in a state of frantic agitation on a Tuesday in November. Under his arm, wrapped in a hide that felt unpleasantly like the skin of some unknown cold-blooded creature, was a manuscript. He had acquired it from a rotting shop in the shadow of the docks, a place whose owner had vanished, leaving only a stench of dead fish and archaic spice. It is, I believe, a variant of the Pneumatic manuscript, Somner whispered, his eyes wide and vacant, but it speaks of truths that predate humanity. It tells of things that dream outside of time. I, against my better judgment, allowed him to stay. I was intrigued, and I had often coveted such singular acquisitions. My apartment, situated near the swirling mist of the Thames, was well equipped for such study, but from the first hour he opened that volume, I knew I had invited a dreadful entity into my home. Somner stopped sleeping. He sat at my library table, bathed in the sickly yellow light of a gas lamp, his eyes tracing the undulating, incomprehensible glyphs. The manuscript was not written in any tongue known to scholars. The ink seemed to shift and shimmer, and the vellum was cold to the touch, often sweating a peculiar foul-smelling, viscous, black substance that defied natural analysis. "It's not a dead language, Barnsworth," he muttered on the third night, his voice echoing in the small room. "It's a pre-human language that requires a different kind of mind to perceive." I found myself watching him from the shadows, paralyzed by a creeping dread. The air in the room grew heavy and stagnant, often accompanied by a low, almost imperceptible humming sound that resonated in my very bones. Somner began to talk to himself, or perhaps to something else, chanting phonetically in a dialect that felt abrasive to the human ear. Pinglungui, Maglanaf, Cthulhu, Arlie, Waglag, Nagl, Fatagen. I urged him to stop. I tried to burn the dreadful dome, but the fire only turned a thick greenish hue, and the book remained unscorched. Somner only laughed, a dry rattling sound. "It is futile, Adrian. We are merely insignificant specks in a cold, uncaring cosmos, and the old ones are waking." By the end of the second week, I had hardly recognized him. His hair had gone entirely white, and his skin was taut over his cheekbones. He was decoding it. He showed me a passage, a diagram that seemed to shift between 2 and 3 dimensions, a non-Euclidean geometry that made my senses reel and my stomach churn. It was a guide, a set of instructions for bringing something through. "The angles are right, Adrian. The angles are finally right," he shouted, throwing his arms toward the ceiling of my study, which suddenly seemed to stretch into an infinite oily chasm. I fled to my bedroom, barricading the door, listening to the impossible sounds from the library. It was a cacophony of twisting, whistling winds, slimy slitherings, and a booming slow chant that came from nowhere and everywhere. When dawn finally broke over London, I forced myself out. The library was in ruins. Books were scattered, their pages torn as if by giant claws. The gas lamp was broken, and Philip Sumner was gone. In the center of the room, on the library table, lay the manuscript. It was closed. There was no sign of struggle, only a deep icy coldness that seemed to emanate from the table itself, and the lingering nauseating smell of deep sea filth. I have hidden the book. I dare not destroy it for fear of what might happen if its eldritch words are unleashed. But I can no longer live in this apartment. The mists of Thames seems to hold a malice they never possessed before, and I cannot look at the sky at night, for I see the stars not as distant suns, but as eyes staring down, watching and waiting. I, Adrian Barnsworth, am ruined, and I fear the same fate awaits anyone who seeks to know the blasphemies of the ancient and unknown world.